Welcome back, everyone, to the Peruvian Pod. This is episode 6, and today we have myself, we have Carlos, we have Mr. Beeb as the moderator for today, and we also have a guest star, Claudia. And I'll let her introduce herself. Claudia, you can go.
Oh, it's not letting me. Sorry. Oh,
You're good.
okay.
You're good. Here,
Hi,
it's okay.
everyone.
We can start it again.
You can
Sorry.
yeah.
No, like,
No. Dude, actually, yo, keep all this because comedy is
no,
gold, bro.
yeah. I mean, we can edit
did
it
you
out.
do that on Did someone do that on purpose?
No, do what?
Do what? What
Dude, I was
happened?
waiting for it.
Yeah, me too, dude. I thought I lost connection.
Okay. All right, Claudia.
Okay, just introduce
Go
yourself.
again.
We'll keep it. We'll keep
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we can keep it in.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Claudia, and I am currently a pre-K4 teacher.
Okay, perfect. So, Carlos, you can go ahead and ask Claudia the first question.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be introducing various questions throughout the podcast for today.
So today's podcast is actually about education. Today we're lucky to have Claudia, who is an educator in the public system. Um, so we have a lot of questions about her experience, specifically during COVID, with all of the different changes that have come from it. We want to get to know what Claudia feels like is something that has worked and what could be fixed upon. So that way, like, in the future years, if something like this happens again, we can all be prepared. So I guess the first question we want to know is like a very general question. How do you think that the whole pandemic, like, what do you think the impact of that has been on the way kids have been learning within these past few months?
Yeah, so, my perspective is one from, working with really, really small kids. So it's really hard to have kids on the computer and maintain their attention. I do things like I have puppets, I put them on my head, things like that to keep their attention. Because, so they're so young that half the time they think that they're watching TV sometimes. So, it's been really tough because you're trying to make learning fun. But it's just really hard, and I don't really have, for me, the big challenge is I really don't have that much time with them because, screen fatigue. How long can you keep a kid in one spot with sustained attention? So, it's for the youngest ones, it's really tough.
What's the youngest you teach? What age?
So in PK4, they're 4 years old. I have a few that just turned 5 these past few months. But I have some are going to turn 5 in the summer. So the age range within this year is kind of big because the maturity, I guess, between a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old can be kind of big too.
Yeah, I feel that. Damn, honestly, that's pretty young. I was dumbass back then.
Oh, yeah.
4 years, at 4 or 5, dude, I couldn't do shit. But I don't know. I mean, honestly, yeah. Even at work, I work with my laptop at home, and even being there for a couple hours just for work is stressful for my eyes and strenuous, and I get bored.
Yeah.
But these kids, man, I don't know. If something doesn't change, I'm sure. Dude, I don't know how fucked up the country will be.
I mean,
in like 20 years.
one of the problems I see with this is that I guess like years like I would say 3 to like 6 are, I think, very like fundamental years for kids, and I think that the kids that got affected by this COVID thing, the ones who are like overly relying on the tablet, on the computer and stuff, I feel like they'll be a little bit more impacted as well, because it's good to have like technology use, like that's the future, but we also grow as like as a social person. Like you need to interact with people. um and I feel like that's one of the things that a lot of people don't really like talk about, which is I think the only reason why I agree with people who say that you should like reopen schools. It's just for that, like the social aspect, because I do feel like it is important, but I do think the health of like the teachers and the kids are more important. So I think that, you know, because of this problem, I'm hoping that they can change the curriculum a little bit to make it so that the people who, or the kids who got affected by being overly dependent on like technology and stuff like that, are able to like not, I guess, become fully attached to it, because I also think that that could be a problem. I don't know if you guys feel the same way about that, but I feel like that's one of the things that kind of sticks in the back of my head.
Do you mean
I worry about them, you know.
like not have like having access to the internet the whole time and not being able to find a solution to a problem if
Yeah,
you don't have the internet?
well, see that, and also just like, you know how whenever we want to do something,
Yeah.
we meet up as people, right? Like we do a social thing.
Right.
Uh, but the only reason we do that is because we've learned to like, you know, communicate like that. At least me, coming from like a Latino household, dude, like family is the main thing.
Hmm.
So for me, dude, it's always I have to make time for it. It's just kind of how I like developed, and that had to do a lot with, you know, how I grew up when I was very young. Like I was lucky to have like my parents and brother and stuff around all the time, for those years.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I worry is that, you know, kids aren't going to know how to communicate in person, because they are spending so much time on the screens and, you know, doing classes online. It's just, it's not the same experience. And today, actually, when I was working, I had like I have two students who, are both like neighbors. Like they actually live right next to each other. And they were mentioning that like even though they're neighbors, they just talk to each other through through the computer the whole time. One
Hmm.
of the kids was like, "Hey, you want to go outside and play?" And the other kid was like, "No, do you just want to like play on Fortnite or something?" And it just made me think, it's like, dang, it's like, um, this time is really forcing kids to actually spend time on the screen. I just, you know,
Right.
I hope that that doesn't really impede their like social development as much.
Okay.
Yeah, but I feel
Yeah,
like that's what would be worried about.
I mean, I guess for me, I mean, for little ones like the ones I have, I would disagree that they're sort of getting attached to the devices. Um, I do engage with them through there, and that is what they are on now. Like I have activities that they have to do daily through an app called Seesaw. So, for all the schooling things, they are on there. And, I don't know how much TV and how many games they play on there.
Mhm.
But I do feel that for kids that young, they still would prefer in person interaction and like play. Um, Knowing how to do that though, like you said, you do have to learn how to interact socially.
During COVID,
Um,
yeah.
Well,
during
go
like
ahead.
during COVID, yeah,
Mhm.
like during COVID and generally,
Mhm.
it's hard. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess for these really young ones, it's uh, it's hard to really pick a side. But something we did with my school um, is we began in October, and so we did it in October and November. We had one day where each class was assigned a slot to go to the school and go play in the park as a class. Completely optional. So, like some kids, I had 4 kids go the first time and 4 kids go the second time, basically the same kids.
Mhm.
Um, and like immediately, I felt like our connection got stronger because we were in person. They were running around, they were telling me to look at them and like play with them. um, I think the 30 minutes we had together were pretty much more special were a more special interaction between the both of us than we've ever had online. So I think kids that young do prefer in person, but it is hard, like you're saying, that like they're not learning how to interact socially. COVID regulations and without COVID regulations.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think specifically with COVID, though, I think, um, I like you said, like the ability to meet socially has been like impacted a lot. Um, I personally think that that's gonna end up. It's not gonna affect the parents as much, but I do think that the people who get these students, because if you think about it, I think that students that are going to school right now aren't getting the same level as they would if it wasn't because of COVID. I know it's something we can't like help because we need to keep things closed in order to get this thing over with. But I think I would feel as if like teachers that get students back into classes again are gonna, I think, have to work on getting these kids to, uh, I guess, like practice those social skills. I would say, and I feel like that's that's like really hard to do. I think that's one thing that I really appreciate, like the teachers I had in my school. That I think a lot of them were good at being like very good at listening to kids and stuff. But I feel like, since kids haven't had that sort of interaction, especially at a young age, you know, how would it be harder for them to develop like a level of trust with the teacher or something like that? Do you feel like that might be an issue for you when you go back to doing classes in person? Like, do you feel like maybe since kids haven't had that sort of touch, do you think they might react to it weirdly, or do you feel like they're gonna be like very happy to come back? I,
Um,
I'm not sure if that question makes sense, but
uh, I think so. Are you asking about the the challenges I will likely
yeah, face.
experience face with like their social skills?
Yeah, I guess with like social skills, and I guess even just general skills, because since kids are using uh, the equipment a lot more than like paper and pencil or something, having to spend extra time to help them work on those things. Do you feel like that might be a problem for you when school goes back to normal, or do you think that it won't cause as much of an impact?
I mean, I think this kind of goes into the topic of, the achievement gap and how it's growing a lot with the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think socially, kids do have to learn social skills. Like, I mean, we're also as adults learning
Mm-hmm.
social skills all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, things like I want to play with those two kids over there. How do I enter into that group?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to, for some kids, maybe they do learn how to do that from their family.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't. And so school,
Is the one
like you were
place where I get it?
saying,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do think it is going to be a challenge when I do go back with, and each kid is different, but I think that will be a challenge academically as well. I'm actually right now submitting like progress reports for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, let me count right now 2, 4, 6. I've gone over 8 letters, like taught them the letter, the sound it makes, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But like they just are not getting enough practice
Mm-hmm.
because I really don't have that much time with them on the screen
Mm-hmm.
that I know not all of them know it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How long do
Those
you
like
have it for the kids?
um yeah, I was counting the amount of time. It's about 4 hours a week
God damn.
Wow, that's
online with them, which is like
Yeah,
yeah,
that's nothing.
it's less than a full day in regular school,
yeah.
or in
I
person.
I actually have a question for you and Carlos about that. That's actually a good thing you brought up the time. So, um, in regards to like social interaction, I was listening to what you guys both have to say, and I completely agree with that. But the problem now is adaptability, right? So, do
Mm-hmm.
you feel like schools and like learning centers and stuff like that should increase the time limit that a teacher has to spend with the students, and for example let them interact with one another through online, say like partner them up with two and then like just explain their day or what they did for fun or just anything like that, or just online activities that they feel like or you guys feel like are beneficial to them in a social aspect as well as a learning aspect. So should the school invest money into that type of stuff or extend the time that you guys have with them? That was basically my question.
Person or virtually?
Virtually, sorry. I meant virtually, not in person. Virtually.
Okay. Okay. I do want more time with them. At the same time, you know, another like really hard thing is, I have a schedule for school online with the kids, but every single family, every single household has their own schedule. So like what we just started to do with my class with the grade level, we were only seeing them for small groups twice a week, which is like small group is so important, especially right now because it's a smaller group. So then I can actually interact with them more authentically and like we can actually have an interaction, versus like if it's the whole group, like I can hear from only a handful of them.
Mhm.
We began to do small groups now every single school day, for each kid. So when I told that to the parents, some parents were like, you didn't really explain why you're adding more time. This doesn't really work with my schedule, so I'm only going to be going to two small groups as I was before. So that parent was very hesitant about increasing more online time, versus another parent that I have that's like, can you have more on screen time for my kid?
Mhm.
So it's a really hard balance with every family because they're all so different.
Mhm. And I actually think that that's a really good point. The time, um, because I definitely know that some families just like it's just a matter of fact that they can't spend more time, just because they have other things which they have to do in order to keep a roof over their head. But I also see that there is another side where parents are just very invested into the work, and enroll like kids into just a bunch of things so that they can kind of keep them busy. Um, One thing that I wanted to ask, like that's related to that, is do you feel as if like especially like during this whole pandemic, do you feel like people now are starting to understand just like how hard it is to be like an educator, like especially in the public field, where I would say like you kind of have your hands tied in a lot of situations. Do you feel like the general attitude towards like a teacher has changed during COVID? Um, because people see that it's not really like the teacher's fault that their education system in this country is not as good as I would say like other countries. Um, do you feel like people now understand that it's not like the teacher's fault? It's the actual system that doesn't give teachers like supplies or doesn't give even the parents like actual information for their kids to actually do more things with school.
I say there is more awareness in the
Mm-hmm.
work that goes into being a teacher, and like the multiple things that we're doing. We're not just teaching, kind of like going back to our previous point, like we're
Mm-hmm.
not just teaching the alphabet and numbers, for example. We're also teaching social skills and things like that,
Manners
and
and
the
all those things.
arts. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I see tweets every once in a while, and like the teaching social media things I follow, parents saying I can't last one day with my kid at home, so I don't know how teachers do it with like 15 kids in their classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is my first year teaching and it's virtual.
Mhm.
In person, virtual, it's really hard when it's your first year doing something like this.
Yeah.
So I'm also now experiencing and realizing how tough this field is, and like this, I don't know what you call it. There's a term. Profession. This profession is, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, that sucks. Because honestly, if this was reversed back like 20 years ago when I was still in like pre-K and like first grade, second grade, I'd be fucked.
I wouldn't be able to do it.
Good. Yeah, dude. With my parents working like 80 hours a week, each one, and taking care of my sister, there was no way I was gonna be able to focus on school and do everything else. And I can't even imagine now
Mm-hmm.
having kid and having to worry about work, but having to worry about them, being educated both socially and book wise. And I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know what
it's
I would do honestly. Um, I, I don't know. There's got to be like a system that has to be changed within, or
Mhm.
maybe, or I don't know, man. It really, at the end of the day, it ends with the parents. They're the ones who have the power of, just be like, hey, I guess sleep less and stay up with your kid at night and study, do materials. Because look, most of the time, this is like a saying of my family, especially my dad has been very popular in my family for saying this.
Mhm.
That if you want it, you'll find time for it.
Oh yeah.
That's
Mhm.
just the mindset and rule that we live by. So even if you get 2 hours of sleep, fuck it, get 2 hours of sleep, but get your shit done.
Mhm.
And I think that's a mentality that more people should adopt, especially now. Like I get it, work is you're working like 9 to 12, 15 hours maybe a day. You're tired, I get it, but at the end of the day, you have a human being to look out for. It's not about you anymore. Um, as sucky as that sounds, but it's
Mhm.
not about you anymore. You have to focus towards them and um, maybe sacrifice your sleep just for them, so they can be
Yeah.
so better social people in the end. Um, but honestly, I can see how tough it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what your opinion on that is, Carlos.
Dude, no, I definitely see it. Especially because also due to COVID, outside like social issues with people our age, even like our parents' age, like um, right now is a time where tensions are very like heated. I would say,
Hmm.
where there is like a lot of like separation, in terms of like schools of thought. Like I hate to always bring this up, dude, but it's like people who support Trump versus people who don't, right? Like it's a time where people are being very vocal about things that they believe in,
Hmm.
and I feel like since the norm is to stay inside and try to not go out as much as possible, sort of like isolate at home. One of my worries, man, is that like you said, like it's a parent's duty to take care of the kid, make sure that the kid is not developing bad habits, that sort of stuff. And I feel like because of how crazy times have been, like especially with kids being online, even young kids, like I would say, like I think kids around maybe like what 6 or 7 can navigate like an iPad on their own,
Oh yeah, they're
right?
like
So
experts at that point.
how hard is it for a kid to just like stumble upon someone saying something crazy like that? Um, I think the internet is a very dangerous thing in terms of I guess for kids that are especially young, because you know how kids when they see something they think that it's right, sort of thing,
Right.
especially if they hear like their parents say something about it. um and I think that that's one thing that I don't know if it would affect like super young kids, like the group that you work with, Claudia, but do you think that these like outside social issues are going to be seen in school more, because kids are reflections of their parents in a lot of aspects? So do you feel like you're going to have to prepare more in case there's a situation that that comes up like that in your school or at your job?
Can you
Hello.
uh, can you hear me? Okay, I think I'm
Yeah.
back.
Hmm.
Before I answer your question, I did want to go back to something Harold was saying.
Hmm.
With like parents and how much, like, basically they brought a child into this world. They're responsible for raising a good person, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think another factor is, the sort of resources parents have, which
Right.
is different. In my previous class last year when this pandemic hit, and in my class this year, the kids that there are kids that are fortunate enough that they do get the support at home, either from their parents or maybe a nanny that they can hire that is like responsible for the kid while they're online learning, for example. So parents don't even have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
There are other parents, that don't have those resources to hire someone to come into their house and look over their kid as they're doing online learning. Or they can hire tutors, for example, to sort of mitigate the educational loss that is happening right now. So, it's really frustrating because the kids that are losing this learning time, is probably, maybe parents have to, they're essential workers, so they can't be at home to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Help them. Or...
help them. Yeah, like maybe teaching the letter R at home, at school, online, and then the parent at home can reinforce that. Do they have the time for it? If they're working, they
Mm-hmm.
probably don't. If they don't have a nanny they can hire, they probably don't have that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, it hits families differently, and it sort of perpetuates it. If the parent has the resources,
Mm-hmm.
those kids are just gonna steadily, they'll find a way to stay on the grade level and get ahead. Students that don't have those resources with those families, it just, yeah.
So, with that being said, great points. Um, what would you say for someone in particular? Because I read the article as well that you sent over earlier today or yesterday, and it does mention that low income families are struggling the most with this pandemic, just because maybe they can't afford internet for a month because something happens, or maybe another bill was more important, like keeping the lights on or keeping water running. Um, is there any like outside educational funds or scholarships or programs right now during the pandemic that can help these parents uh, have access to reliable internet so their kids can focus more on that, and the parents have one less bill to worry about, like internet, which is very essential at this moment during the pandemic? um, do you happen to know any resources out there that parents can go out and look for or maybe apply to if they needed it?
Well, I don't know nationally. But what we're doing in my school district is, well, what they publicly say is that, they have hotspots that they can give families if they
Right.
need it for Wi-Fi. They have devices ready for pickup. But, for my class, I've had 5 to 10 students need devices from the school. They didn't prioritize pre-K 4 and 3 because those aren't required grades, right? So they prioritized K through 5.
Right.
So those were the students that got all the devices. There
Mm-hmm.
was another shipment. This was like in September. There was another shipment that we were waiting for the pre-K 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
That one was delayed until like October. So I actually went a whole month without seeing a few kids because there just wasn't an iPad for them that the school could provide. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you know, I would say the resources need to be given to the schools and to the community so that everyone has Wi-Fi and everyone has those devices,
Mm-hmm.
sort of after the pandemic started, and so there was really no time to plan, which is why there was this backup.
Right.
But it does show where families are in different places. And I mean, kind of like you said, all households should have Wi-Fi at this point, right? Like,
Right. It's essential.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this pandemic really exposed a lot of things that, a lot of social issues
Yeah.
in this country, for sure.
Um, did you guys hear? One of our moderators, Jen, mentioned that this would be a good time to talk about disparities. Um, and I think this is where Claudia and I like, or at least I'm very aware of the disparities because I work in like for-profit education. So I'm able to work with students who have more than enough. Uh, they have their parents have more than enough like time and resources to put their kids into these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about all the things that we do right like on a regular basis. Um, like the type of stuff that we're doing is helping the kids like grow creatively as well as just like thinking very critically. And it just sucks that some kids are doing this. There are like kids like Claudia mentioned who just don't have devices and stuff like that to
Mm-hmm.
work with, which I think that stuff, like you guys said, the internet is essential. Like we shouldn't be paying for internet, um, or if we are paying, dude, it should be very like very
Low.
low amount. Like
Yeah. Good
you
speed too.
I
um,
agree.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's not like, dude. I mean, we pay what like $50 a month for our internet, and dude, we live in like an apartment building, so that could easily be like the apartment building itself could easily have one like network, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so no, I definitely like I see the disparities, man, and like I hate to say it, dude, but the people who are gonna continuously be held back by this are gonna be people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Because dude, it's just like as much as our parents want to help, dude, like sometimes they can't. Like, at least I know my parents when I was growing up, as much as I would want them to like help me with my homework, they
Sure.
had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, a part of me uh would feel mad towards my parents. I'm like, how do you not know this? Like, how can you not help me? But then I also realized I'm like, hey, it's not my parents' job to like teach me, right? Especially in this country, at least they have something set up where the school system is supposed to do all of that. Um,
Yeah. And plus, there's a
but
different language as well.
yeah,
So.
like there's a language, and one of the things that I felt like I never really had when I was in high school or even like in public school was I thought that the way of getting information was always very like it was very difficult. Like there weren't like super clear I would say like guides or things for parents who would have like general questions,
Mm-hmm.
like especially me being like I didn't speak English when I first came, so I had to learn a lot of stuff. We had to manage a lot of stuff. It was funny because the person who helped me guide through all of that wasn't like no school counselor, it wasn't no administrator, it was like one of the teachers. It was a teacher who literally just had my name on the school sheet, and then she was like, okay, so you got a new student, he doesn't speak English, so deal with it. And because of her I was able to get everything. Like my parents were able to understand what was going on because she would translate it for us.
Mm-hmm.
um but I felt like I always think back to that and I get upset because that's not I would say that's not a teacher's responsibility to provide like aids for the parents. I think that that's something that either the school or like the county should have, like, and it should be, if they do have it, dude, it should be like readily available. It should be like shoved down our throats, sort of stuff, because you want people to know what options they have in terms of the
Right.
kids. And I think like COVID and everything with the devices, like that was one big thing. Like people didn't have even the means to do these classes, right? So
Right.
even if you have the even if you're a parent and you have the time, but you just don't have the money to get your kid to do the class, like it's like what can you do? And I feel like the whole school system did, personally, dude, I think they did a terrible job with helping out the teachers and helping out like families, because I think that, dude, education is so important that we should be spending so much money to make sure that when something like this happens that everyone is covered, so we don't stay a year behind everyone else in like the world, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely feel that. Like you said, people of color will be the most affected
Hmm.
during this pandemic. And then it all goes back even to the very core of this podcast, that the reason Carlos and I started was just for uh financial freedom, independence. When people have money, they have resources. When they have resources, they have chances and opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
uh for those who don't have it, well, it's tough luck for them. So that goes back in the circle at the end of the day. So this is why, because in my school, because when I was let's say I was like 5, 4, when I came to the United States, I was in like the ESL class, I think they were called,
Mm-hmm.
English
Yeah,
as a
English
second
second
language.
language. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I fucked up. I was the only basically one that spoke any English at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to, be a translator, had to be a lawyer, had to be a doctor,
All the stuff.
had to be a technician. Like, what the fuck,
Yeah.
man? Like, at 7 years old, 6 years
Yeah.
old, like,
Yeah.
my mom got mad at me because I don't know this like
What a
big
word
ass
means.
word, like from a legal document. I'm like, mom, I barely know my numbers. So it's like all this disparity and lack. And the only reason I didn't know is because, well, maybe my parents didn't have money because they were working, so they couldn't hire a nanny or a
Or a
tutor to
tutor. Yeah.
come by after school and help me with my English or help me with my homework
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And if my parents did help me, it wasn't really helpful because, like many parents are realizing now, teaching kids is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
They might mess up, they might be uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
especially at least for my parents, they will yell a lot if I got their answer wrong,
Mm-hmm.
or they would like sit me down for like 3 hours straight until I got it right, or whatever. And that's not good in a child's mind. At least I don't think. Um, I mean, I turned out all right, but I probably could have been better
If
um,
yeah.
if I had the resources.
Mm-hmm.
And end of the day, for anyone listening to this podcast, I'm not saying don't have kids. We're not against
We're
kids
not
here,
anti
but
kids.
yeah, but but really think about this. Not saying
No,
you have to be a billionaire before you have kids, or be like a multimillionaire, but at least have enough resources to cover your back if some were to come
yeah,
back down.
just something small I want to say since we're on this topic of the big responsibility children are.
Right.
That's why having the option for an abortion is really important.
Okay. Yeah.
It gives those people a choice to decide whether they're ready for that, emotionally, mentally, financially as well, because that goes back to the resources.
Very
yeah.
true. Yeah, because I mean, I'm not against abortion. I'm not for abortion either. I'm for, if it makes sense, do it.
Yeah. So
Uh,
the choice is important.
Yeah.
right. The choice. Yeah, you're right. The freedom of choice is always important. That's also one of the biggest thing in financial freedom that I've been reading. It's not about getting the object; it's about having the opportunity to get it and be like, yeah, I can get it if I want to, but like, maybe I don't want to.
Mhm.
And that's the freedom of choice. I think it's very important that should be kept in our society, and it also should be uh, not looked frowned upon if people decide to get an abortion or use birth controls or whatever. If it happens and you guys think you can make it work, think again, think twice, think 3 times, 4, 5, 6. Think as many different scenarios as possible, and don't let other people influence the way you think.
Having a kid.
Majority of the reason why people are against abortion, it's because it's against the religion. And I'm not saying religion is bad. Religion has its good and its bad, like everything else in the world. But
It
you're
shouldn't be a law.
it shouldn't be a law, right? The freedom of choice is so important, that if you decide to do something that will be bad for the long term, like raising a child in very impoverished portion of your life, you haven't got anything together, you're probably going to create another person just like you who doesn't really uh I guess contribute to society in a positive way. I don't want to sound like very cynical or anything like that, but you know it, I don't know, there's got to be more education on people before they have kids. I don't know, maybe take an exam or something like they do for schools and getting into colleges, whatever. See if you're ready. I don't know, man. Get I don't know, FICO's credit, credit card of like 700 and above, or something.
Oh my gosh.
there should be there should be like something within
Yeah.
our society that gives you, I don't want to give you like the green light to have kids, but I guess I don't know what I'm saying either at this point because that's kind of socialism.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, okay, I guess I get what you're trying to say. It's just like like smart when you have a kid, dude. You're bringing another being into um society, and dude, I know there are like certain circumstances where it is not like the worst thing. It sounds bad, but the worst thing to do is sometimes a bring another being into like a bad situation you might
right,
be in,
because they
right?
didn't have the chance of being
Yeah.
born into a shitty situation, and you brought that upon them. That's not fair either.
Oh yeah, no. So that yeah, and the thing is, it's that like, sure that situation happens a lot, dude. But the thing is, it's that you're right. Like there shouldn't be a bad stigma around it, right? Like you
Right.
shouldn't be considered like a failure if you do that stuff, or like you know how people have like very negative like I guess like a negative perception towards it.
Very
Yeah,
negative.
I think those things should definitely change because you're right, dude. Like it's the ability of having a choice is very important because you definitely like cannot let some religious it's religious BS tell you that you can't get rid of it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why people equate it to playing God. It really isn't, dude. It's you being like a human person, being like, hey, I'm not in a position where I can give this being like a good life. You know, I would say it's the most humane thing to do, dude, because you know like you're right, like it creates like bitter people. If you've had a really shitty childhood, dude, like those memories stick with you, dude. And
Right.
I know you like I think the way you said it was extreme, like you don't attribute to society,
Yeah.
but the thing is, see, it's like a system though, isn't it, that like the reason like most of these things happen to people of color is because we just don't have that education, like
Mm-hmm. Or
with
resources
yeah,
like birth control,
yeah,
like Jen, the moderator, said
hmm,
that it should be accessible to all women in the country or in the
hmm,
world, in matter of fact. But there's so many people against it, but so many people for it that it's basically like at a standstill, and it's dependent at either by state or by county even sometimes, and
yeah,
it's not right either
not
way.
right, yeah. It's dumb, dude. It really is. Like it's just another way of kind of how we have like I mean I would say it's secretly been effed over, but I think it's just been kind of under our noses that this has been happening. And I
Mm-hmm.
think dude, and now like people have been understanding it and keeping up with it. Like they're like, hey, like people are starting to call out when these sort of things happen, right? Which is
Right.
good. I think that's a very like positive thing. I think that teaches people to not be scared to call out someone for being like a dick, right? Like there's so many situations where like famous people like do very stupid things, but just because they're famous, people are like sympathize for them and stuff, and they never learn, and then people look at them and they're like, oh look, that person can get away with it. Let me do the same and get away with it. It creates a very stupid cycle, dude. And
Yeah, that's why it's very very messed up. People in power stay in power
hmm,
because they know how to game the system, by putting others down,
hmm.
or finding ways, loopholes for their childs to go to college, like that one
Olivia
actor,
Jade.
yeah,
Oh
Olivia
my
Jade.
god.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I
Claudia,
mean,
do you
Carlos,
know?
I know you're very heated in this
Oh,
topic, so do you want
yeah.
to
No,
give your opinion on why you think she should
dude. I
not
think
face
I think
punishment?
I think no. I think she should face punishment, dude. Well, before we start, Claudia, do you know what happened with Olivia Jade? Um.
Um, I can't. Oh, there you go. Yes, I do. I do know
o-
about this.
All
Okay.
right,
Cool.
Carlos, explain it real quick for the viewers who don't know.
So basically, what happened is there's this big scandal where a bunch of rich people paid uh, people and universities to get their rich kids into the school, um, and they got caught. So the FBI did a whole investigation. They caught people. They gave them sentences and stuff like that. Um, but one of the things that's funny about it is that. Uh, when you compare what they did to what some people like us what we do, right? like the main example from this, dude, is it was the, they literally cheated or like broke the law to get their kid into school, right? And the fact is that they used a way that would affect someone who would get like like a student scholarship, right? Like an athlete scholarship. And typically, dude, like those sort of scholarships are opportunities that people who don't have like many resources use to go to school, right? As much as I hate school, dude, like I'm not a big fan of like college and all that stuff. For some people, dude, it is the only way that they can get out of a bad situation. And the reason why I'm so pissed is because, dude, not only did Olivia Jade and her family do it, right?
Yeah.
They got caught with it. They got caught with it. They should have got their sentence, and that should have been it, dude.
Right.
But the fact, dude, that they wasted so much money on a lawyer so that way they can, get a lighter sentence, and then the fact that they've managed to make it a way so that only the parents got affected and not the child, like the kids who were actively aware that it was happening, right? Like I know she said that, oh, I wasn't aware that my parents were doing this, but they had her like pose for pictures. They had her fake conversations about her being in like a rowing team, um,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it's all this stuff, dude. It's like so much bad stuff, like just kind of pointed at a person, right? And yet she
Right.
has the audacity to go talk on this like red table talk and says, "Hey, I deserve a second chance," with like just a big like sense of entitlement. The reason I'm pissed, and Harold said that I'm very vocal about this, is because I feel like people. There was an example of a lady who went to jail, dude, because she faked an address so her daughter could go to a better school district, right? Like I know that's bad, dude, but that was done out of like necessity.
Right.
Like you're a fucking millionaire. You're a millionaire's kid. How, dude? Like you have every resource available to you, right? Like you can get any tutor you want, anything.
Mhm.
How does it get to the point where like your parents have to pay for your college, like have to like bribe your way into college? Yeah, and she releases videos of her saying like, hey, like I don't care about education, like I'm only going there for the partying and stuff, right?
Right.
um and then all of this stuff, dude, this is all bad stuff that is that matched up against her. But yet, dude, I still see people like defending her, being like, hey man, like she needs a second chance, like she has what's it called, like she wasn't aware what's going on. But I'm like, dude, like in a time like this, especially where people of color, people who aren't privileged like her,
Right.
I don't even want to say white, I guess it's just like rich people, because she's super rich and this is what rich people do. Even I would say like Hispanic people, black people of color, they probably do the same thing. But
Mhm.
there's so much like negative, there's so many bad things that are piled up against her. And this is a time where we should use platforms to make people that have done these bad things feel some sort of punishment, dude, because obviously the law hasn't done that. She, whether they
Uh,
went to a celebrity prison, right?
Right. Her mom
Her
is in
mom,
jail, right?
yeah, and the dad went to jail, well, for 6 months, but it's like a celebrity prison.
Right. Very
It,
bougie.
yeah, and it's not a punishment really, because they're gonna get all their endorsement deals back and stuff. I just feel like it's very deaf tone, for her to get like attention like that, especially in a situation where for people education is super important, and for her to not even care about education and take someone's thing away, and then come back and say like, hey, I deserve a second chance because of this. In a time where people like us, dude, don't get second chances like that. Like if you're 21 and you get like a mark in your record,
Right.
when if you're a person of color, dude, that's an automatic flag for employers and stuff. Like you literally cannot build a future if you have something like that.
Right. It's very hard.
You don't get second
Mhm.
chances and stuff, which is why I was so pissed. Like I'm sorry I talked so long, but that's why I
No,
was
no, yeah,
upset
like,
about that.
yeah. I mean, I think to bring it back to the issues with the educational system in the US specifically,
Hmm.
like the and I thought about this when you mentioned, the contrast between, you know, her parents are going to this bougie ass jail place versus someone else that faked their address to get into school.
Mhm.
For me, that brings it back to how schools are funded, and it's by property tax.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
rich locations get all the funding,
Which sucks.
and then, populations where, when there's gentrification, things like that, that don't have all that money, those schools suffer because they're not getting the proper funding.
Yeah.
So for me, an issue that's a really big issue within the public school system.
Mhm.
Everyone should get all the funding that they need. Um, and that, I think that would help with these really big disparities between all these schools. Um,
Yeah.
and then, like, another thing, thinking about how her family paid for her to get into this school, with
Mhm.
college. For me, I'm Latina, you know, immigrant, don't really have all that money to pay for tuition for undergrad.
Mhm.
I did it financial aid. I did it through scholarships.
Mhm.
That was the only reason that I was able to go to college. So, that presents a really big
Problem.
problem and a big challenge. So, I mean, colleges, like, in
Expensive.
countries, should be free.
It
Mhm.
should be. That's one of the main points I agree with you. I think education is one of those few programs that should be very, very standard and very available for everyone.
Hmm.
Because it
Because
benefits
it's not
them
like a
all.
business. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It benefits all, right? To have the same level of education. And then if you're one of those people that likes to go above and beyond and do better than those, then fuck it. That's awesome. That's good for you. But
Mhm.
it's so unfair to compete with someone who has not had those resources, and and almost be like jealous of them for having them,
Mhm.
that advantage, which is very big advantage. Even like like our president Trump, his parents gave him like a loan of $1 million.
Oh yeah, he
uh
had. I mean, dude, he never. First, of all, he's a failed businessman. Because, dude, you literally walk out of the womb with an investor and you fuck up. Like, it's so stupid, dude.
right,
It's
but even saying, like, he had the
oh
opportunity
yeah.
to have a loan from someone who's probably not going to ask them for the money back, to be
Mhm.
honest, and not paying interest on that and whatever.
Mhm.
But they had the opportunity to do it, try it. If he fails, well, he fails. But if he succeeds, he succeeds. The same thing goes for people of color who don't have the funds to go to college, but uh, the government provides assistance, and I'm doing air quotes on this because that assistance is very, very stupid, in my opinion, because you rack up student debt, which is
Hmm.
very, very, very hard to pay off. You
Yeah.
have to be very meticulous with your money. You have to have a financial planner, or else you'll end up paying for it for 5+ years, maybe 20 to 30 years, m- maybe even more, depending on how well you are with your money and how different financial programs they offer for paying down payments. Or, it's either income based or set based or whatever you want to pick.
Mhm.
But that interest that builds over time while you're in college is ridiculous. It makes no sense. As an investment in any company, that's literally a scam.
Mhm.
But that's what education is built on, and that's the avenue that the government gave people of lower income, or POCs, people of color, to
Mhm.
go sign up for thousands of dollars in debt, and basically keep them under their thumb by having them pay monthly about $200 to $300.
Mhm.
Not even telling them if they pay $50 extra per month, that they'll cut down their student loans by 7 years. That's a huge time saved.
Wow.
Yeah, if you guys don't know this, I've dug into this type of college loan because I'm very into finance. As much as the group knows, I love finance. I want to be financial independence one day. I want to be a billionaire, etc. So I've been looking into how to pay student loans as fast as possible. Even if you pay $50 a month extra to your monthly what's it called, monthly payment, you cut
Mhm.
down that loan by 7 years, which is incredible. 7 years of not paying loan, of 7 years of maybe saving that extra $50 or $100,000 towards a business idea or towards your retirement fund or your Roth IRA account, your students or your kids' college
Yeah,
loans
even
or
for your next
whatever.
generation.
Exactly, but they don't tell you that even paying extra $50 a month, which is, I know many people who are living paycheck to paycheck, most of the time is because they suck at managing money. They don't know, instead of buying, uh, branded cereals, they can go buy, off-brand cereals, even if it's a difference of $1. That's $1 every month. That's 12 months. That's $12. Et cetera, et cetera. Small things matter. They don't know that paying off certain things faster is beneficial for them. So, um, like I said, dude, I don't know. There's just got to be
There's disparities, dude. Like, dude, that
very.
that's knowledge that we should have known, dude. That's information that should be given out. Like,
That's knowledge that our parents should
yeah,
have known. But then again, we
they
come
don't.
from a very, very different background. They did not have the privilege of growing up here and knowing the education system, knowing about interest rates, debts, ways around loopholes, deduction of taxes or whatever, as we do. But it's kind of too late because we're already in the hole deep buried, trying to get out. Shoveling with a plastic spoon at this point. But it's uh, I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm pissed. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm just like, I'll get through it. I'll get through it. I'll pay it as soon as possible. I'll invest. Maybe I'll get lucky with a stock and become a millionaire overnight or whatever. But I'm always trying to find ways to at least
Bro,
grow as a person and be more financial independent and be better than my parents. So my kids, as maybe one day, can be a selfish little brat who has so much money. But I don't want them to be assholes. But I am also jealous of those kids because they have so much uh, resources available for them that
yeah,
I wish I had right now at the moment. But you know, that's life at this point.
we'll get there one day, dude. Well,
One day,
yeah, dude. No, but no, that's straight facts, man. Um, like a lot of people we just don't know, dude. It's a lack of information. It's just I don't think people care enough to tell us. I would say, man, like there's very little, like, even when I went to school, dude, like there's, like I said, dude, I didn't know about like scholarships and stuff because I obviously
right?
didn't want to pay like the full amount for college, but dude, I mean, I I had to suck it up and do it. Luckily, I
Right.
don't have any school debt, which is nice. Um,
Wow, that's great.
yeah, we were able to pay it through cash, like everything. Which sucked, dude, because like that meant that I had to the time where people were like enjoying college or whatever. Um, I was like double working so I could pay it. Um,
Right.
which is another reason why I got so pissed off about that stupid Olivia J thing. It's because, dude, bitch didn't even want it, man. Like like there are kids, like you said, dude. There are kids who don't have anything, bro. Like parents are in holes and stuff. uh it's so bad, man. Like times are really bad where bad things should be scolded upon, dude, like punished. Like you should
Should.
be fucking canceled if you are an asshole, dude. Like that's a really messed up thing to do, especially in today's environment, dude. Like I don't know how things are gonna change if we just keep having people like sympathize for people who do bad things. um and I don't know, it's weird, dude. I hope the education system like also changes like a lot of the curriculum in terms of like history as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that I've learned just through COVID, dude, me being like 23, I learned that a lot of the history that I learned wasn't necessarily right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was like
Fuck.
painted in a
Yeah.
different picture.
Fuck
So
Columbus.
they're whitewashed.
yeah,
Very
so that
whitewashed.
and dude, and that's one of the things as well. Like at least that I feel like I've learned this year is just I used to not question things before.
Right.
But now, dude, I question everything because you think about it, man, like we were kind of groomed to live in like a white man's world, right? Like all of the heroes, in quote air quotes, that we have from like our history textbooks were like white men, right?
Right.
They were shown that they were attacking people because they were rebellious. But if you look at it now, they weren't rebellious. They were people that were like trying to defend their land.
Right.
So it's just, and the thing is, kids get taught these things. I don't think teachers have much say in that because they could lose their jobs if they don't stick to curriculum.
Well, I mean, it really depends on the teacher.
Yeah. Well, because also like I think one thing is also like the
Tenure
like
thing.
the parents could also like bitch about like, hey, like why is, because kids, this is one thing that I learned one time. It wasn't like something bad that I said, but one of the kids repeated one of the sayings that I say a lot. Like I have these like small little sayings that I tell my kids when I work with them. And one of them, I guess he interpreted it wrong. I was like, I told him, I was like, hey, but he was telling me a story about like how he was just like, something bad happened with him at school, and that, he got someone upset, and then they got upset. I was just like, you can't like please everyone, right? Like you can't, like sometimes people do bad things. And then one of the parents like he tells me, he's like, hey, like I don't want you telling my kid those type of things. I'm like, what do you mean? Like it's reality, dude. It's like sometimes people are bad people. Like I'm not gonna shun your kid from telling him that, so I also feel like sometimes parents also don't make it easy for the teacher to
Sure.
like get a point across, because oftentimes, dude, like kids are spending more times with the teachers at school than with the parents at home. So like a lot of the things that I used to say when I grew up, it wasn't for my parents. It was for, like things that my second grade teacher, third grade teacher would say, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like, there just needs to be a very big like cultural change. Um, we got set back way behind with this pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think it's starting to show, dude, because you know, like things are starting to get bad again, and people are still being like so freaking like aggressive with this like no mask stuff. It's just, and it sucks because the kids are seeing their parents act that way, right?
Exactly.
And it's just a repeating
Mhm.
cycle, and it's gonna suck, dude. It's so bad. I hate it.
Vaccine, brother.
Yeah.
Vaccine. I'm all for it.
I don't know, man. This is bad. But no, honestly, like I think we hit an hour, right? Almost.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we definitely hit an hour.
Oh, okay. You should do our ad read and then wrap it up.
Yeah, bro. Sponsored by Audible, you know.
uh,
But yeah, definitely everyone listening out there. Um, hopefully this pandemic lights more issues that we've been burying deep, and then that we're able to fix one day. And hopefully we, as the current generation or current millennials, fix the problems of our past parents and generation, so we have a better future for everyone, not just those who are privileged enough to be financially stable or have a higher social status or etc., or whatever you want to say. um, but other than that, I don't have any other closing remarks. I don't know if Carlos or Claudia has one, but I don't.
I am good, Claudia. Thank you for coming onto our show, letting us and
Thanks
enlightening
for
I
us with,
appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah, this was fun.
Great, great, great. We have a regular person now, other than Carlos and I.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
It's all right.
we usually just ramble on about
Right,
stuff.
yeah, it's all
But
right.
now
Well,
this is something I hope we continue doing. We're at least one thing I want to do is get like people of different professions that are, I guess,
yeah,
younger.
yeah, Joe Rogan and stuff.
Yeah, because I think this has been interesting times, and I think people's mindsets have really changed during this whole pandemic. So I'm hoping it's to a better future, man.
Hopefully to a very future. But then again, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode of the Peruvian Pod, and we'll get another video out by next week, hopefully. If not, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. But y'all take care out there. Bye.